set us apart from each other. Everyone in this room has their own story, and yet, if asked, few of us would be ready to share it. Faith and religion have played a major part of my own story, and yet I've rarely been presented the opportunity to talk about this chapter of my life. This is because of that assimilation, because having different practices and beliefs sets you apart from the crowd. As a member of a minority religion, I believe that this experience of the taboo nature of religious discussions was unique to me. Throughout the 12 years I've attended GDS, there's been about 3 Jewish people in my grade, so I always thought I felt this way because I was outnumbered. However, as I grew up, I had the unsettling realization that, in spite of growing up in a predominantly Christian area, I knew close to nothing about the religion itself. This led to a chain reaction of me connecting the dots. If I knew so little about Christianity after growing up surrounded by it, how little must my peers know about Judaism and other minority religions? You may be thinking of times when religion has been a topic of study in your English or history class. However, it is important to recognize all the facets of religious education and which ones we have yet to explore. As a sophomore, I recently took a world history class, and of course religion was mentioned. However, it was usually brought up as a societal building block, and it was something that's defined primarily by the things it relates to. While the historical context of religions is important, it is also just as important to learn about the modern-day practical components of these religions. For example, I could learn everything about the lives of Jesus and Muhammad, but I still would not know the modern-day practices of the people who follow their teachings. That is why the social stigma is such a big issue. Religion was meant to bring people together and create unity in spite of differences. However, in our efforts to coexist, we may have unintentionally cut ourselves off from our counterparts. Musician Daryl Davis once said, "Ignorance breeds fear. If you don't keep that fear in check, it will breed hatred." With the lack of knowledge on world religions, a person's mind may only supply stereotypes on the topic, leading them to unknowingly alienate and treat people of other religions differently. Over the last year or so, I've had several conversations with my friends about religion. It is important to note that all of my friends in this specific group are Christian, though with different levels of commitment to their practices. Throughout these conversations, which were essentially just us educating one another, not once was I reminded that I was outnumbered. While this is just my experience, I'm sure others have felt alone in situations like these, which leads me to wonder why we aren't having conversations like these in classrooms, and why only such a small group of people was being exposed to so much important knowledge. If we were to introduce conversations like these in the classrooms, it would ensure a certain level of knowledge and understanding across the entire student population. Religion has been a guiding hand in civilizations all over the globe for centuries. It influences conflicts, social norms, and even the arts. So to send a student into the world with little awareness on the subject is denying them access to so much beneficial knowledge. Anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, and other anti-religion hate crimes are at a high, and it is not because of individuals. According to the FBI's crime database, within the last year, 35% of all hate crimes committed across America were due to religious biases, which increased from 19% in the year prior. Even just within North Carolina, that same percentage went from 22 to 32% in just a year. So why is this happening, and what does it mean? Throughout the U.S., we have created a new culture for people to assimilate into, one of religious intolerance. So while hateful ideas often stem from one person, they're able to spread around an entire population if they go unchecked. That is why it is so important to provide adequate education to prevent harmful stereotypes from spreading. John Stewart said, "Religion, it's given people hope in a world torn apart by religion." We have been put into such an ironic situation that religion, groups of ideas meant to unify us with beliefs, has become such a polarizing topic. Wars have been started, laws have been created, and people have been killed, all because of a difference in beliefs. So avoiding discussions only delays the conflict. So if we took the time to learn, some of the conflicts could be prevented. In order to make a change, you must overcome these social barriers and ask uncomfortable questions. We can do this by incorporating a wide range of religious studies into pre-existing curricula, but it is important to note that this information cannot be shoved into an elective. It must be accessible to all students at any time. It is also important to note that not only should we educate on the origins of religions, but also on how they are represented in the current time. According to Interfaith America, the 5 key factors of embracing religious diversity are policy, curriculum, environment, dialogue, and resources. But I would like to focus specifically on curriculum. The American public school system is a prime example of secularism, or at least it should be. In March of this year, a superintendent nominee shared their intention to introduce elective Bible studies courses to public schools statewide. While this proposal technically has no constitutional violation thanks to freedom of speech, they were immediately attacked by people of many religious and political affiliations. While the statement was inflammatory, I feel it was a beneficial introduction to a much bigger issue. If we were to expand this proposal to cover the religious studies of more major religions, it could be one step closer to true inclusion through education. Making these adjustments would be life-altering for me. No longer would I be treated as a dictionary for things related to Judaism, and I wouldn't have to explain to my classmates what Yom Kippur is and why it's more than just a day off school. People of all backgrounds could feel seen and heard without having to worry about whether their peers understand. And maybe, over time, we can learn to celebrate our beliefs because they are what set us apart.